Hi team, Richard Greer here. We're looking at the Crater Rim Ultra. It's a special event that's come. Sorry, I'm going to start that again. Welcome to the Crater Rim Ultra special coming up on the Sunday, the 18th of October, in the Port Hills of Christchurch. We're going to specifically talk about that today. I'm Richard Greer, and we're pushing the buttons tonight, directing the ship, or trying to, while Angus Petrie and Media Man with the Mo has pulled a hamstring. So sitting on the sideline, we've got James, the super sub coach, sitting on the couch tonight. Hopefully help us out with a few extra comments and help the show ticking along tonight. How are you getting on, James?
I'm really good, thanks. Look, and yeah, substituting one moustache for another. I've been told many times, as you've heard over the past week, that I'm not to make too many comments or not to do too much because I'm only filling the seat. I'm only keeping it warm. So I've stepped in as the super sub coach while there's a wee bit of rehab. I don't actually know what happened, so I don't know the story, and maybe I don't need to. But I'm here tonight and excited to be here. It's very exciting to be on the other side of the music leading into this evening. How good is that? How do you not get pumped up, Richard? What a good way to start the evening.
No, absolutely. So there was more than just, hey, James, can you come on board? You've got a great Mo, and you're looking good too. Can you come and sit on the couch for us?
Thanks.
As of 2 days ago, you decided, okay, Crater Rim Ultra, I need an event to do. I've pulled up short in a couple of previous events, one in March, just as lockdown happened, the Ring of Fire Ultra, and then you're going to do 100 miles down in Naseby. That got pulled, unfortunately, as well. So hopefully at omen, but things are looking really good for the Crater Rim Ultra, which will hopefully mean you might be able to learn a thing or two tonight as well, with 4 weeks of preparation to go and run this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and what a pain it's just been, but level 1 rhymes with fun, so things are looking up, and let's hope it stays that way. But yeah, look, a couple of events and had the brakes thrown on them, which has been a bit of a shame. But I mean, what can we do? We're back, sort of getting back to normal now, and I thought let's go from 0 to 53 in 4 weeks starting today. So what a better way to kick off the evening than to talk to Scotty Hawker and Jamie Hawker tonight about the race itself. So I'll be all ears, and I might even chime in every now and again if Angus lets me pushes me in every now and again. He might even take me out if I start asking too many questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So tonight's show, we're going to profile professional ultra running athlete Scotty Hawker, who'll be lining up for his first crack at the event this year. At this time of the year, Scotty is normally based in Europe and would have just finished the UTMB event, known as the World Cup of Trail Running. Last year, he placed third in this amazing event, 171 Ks, that has over 10,000 meters of climbing in it. So we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss how he got to that point and where he's looking to go, and hopefully learn a thing or two along the way around training, nutrition, etc., and what it takes to actually compete in an event like that, and how he's shaping up for the Crater Rim Ultra. We're going to also catch up with race director Jamie Hawker, who is actually Scotty's dad, and about the Crater Rim, find out what makes this event so special and what you need to know to make sure that you can prepare well for it. And then we're going to finish off with Cushla Holdaway, who's our dietitian, and she's going to share her 3 top tips for running an ultra towards the end of the show. So Scotty, are you there? Come on in, Scotty. Just like that. How you getting on?
How you going? Yeah, good.
Good evening, Scotty. Thanks for joining us, mate. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it.
No worries.
Scotty, how are the legs this time compared to this time last year?
Oh, feeling fresh. normally walking around like a bloody wounded cowboy at this time of year, so it's actually quite nice to know which day it is and not feel totally destroyed. So it's definitely different feelings compared to 2019, that's for sure.
Yep, brilliant. Yeah. So you're with the whole lockdown thing. You're based in Christchurch. You've been out doing a bit of running and hopefully in reasonable shape come Crater Rim time.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, it's been kind of nice actually, to be honest. Being kind of, it seems silly saying I'm stuck in New Zealand because I think a lot of people would quite like to be stuck here at the moment. But it's been interesting. We've had our first kind of proper winter in about 10 years. So that's been fun and games and everything that goes with that. But it's back home and sort of ready for another race.
Yep, absolutely. And in terms of the Crater Rim Ultra, obviously it's an event that you're turning up to for the first time this year. How are you shaping up? And how did you actually go about signing up for it? Was there a bit of arm twisting from your dad? How did that sort of work? Or did you I'm keen to do that?
Oh, sorry, I only just caught the end of that, but my headphones just cut out. But yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't have to do too much to get into the race. I think the old man was probably secretly rubbing his hands together when COVID hit, so he knew that his son was going to be stuck in Christchurch when everything was going off. So no, yeah, it's good to be able to do the race. You know, really looking forward to doing it.
Yep, brilliant. So give us a bit of background, Scotty. Tell us how you got into ultra running and why the long distance events. I mean, these events aren't for the faint-hearted, especially 171 Ks with 10,000 meters of climbing. That's pretty out there and pretty crazy. But so what's your been like development pathway to get to where you are now?
Yeah, basically I did the coast to coast in when was that? 2011. And yeah, basically just sort of we were moving to Australia, and it was one of those things I thought if I don't do the coast to coast now, I'm probably going to be a 40-year-old bloke with a beer gut telling stories about what he thought he might have been able to do and everything else. So I signed up for the coast to coast basically to do kind of just before we were going to be planning to move to Australia. And yeah, moved to Australia, and then the first run I actually did on Australian soil was a 44K run in the on the trails around Western Australia over in Perth. And so yeah, that's sort of I guess what was kind of kickstarted the whole kind of trail running thing was doing the Goat Pass run, Minga section, and yeah, just kind of enjoying running longer distances, and yeah, sort of did that run in Perth, the first one, and then a few mates were talking about a 50K road race that was coming up, and yeah, I sort of didn't even realise there was a thing called a 50K road race at the time, and didn't really know too much about ultra marathons. But yeah, just I guess that was sort of how I kind of I guess fell into trail and ultra running. And yeah, the community in Perth is just awesome. The trail running community is just amazing, awesome people, a lot of amazing events, and so yeah, kind of just went from race to race to race, just enjoying it and the people that were involved, and yeah, kind of the more I got in the trails, the more I was enjoying it.
Brilliant. Just going back, did you have a good performance in coast to coast? Does that sort of set you off to say, actually, I could probably do pretty well at this? Is that sort of how it started before you got over to Australia?
Yeah, it's kind of I got fourth in the 2-day individual. Well, third if you don't count the old fella that beat me, but yeah, it was sort of yeah, it was one of those events that I mean, I look back and just think, what on earth was I doing? Like I thought I was an athlete back then, but just absolutely no idea. I was doing a lot of whitewater kayaking, and I was actually working for a company who were issuing grade 2 certificates and all that kind of stuff as well. So I was on the Waimak a whole heap, and going through Woodstock and everything else. And so yeah, I was actually, to be honest, I was probably almost a better kayaker than I was runner back then. And yeah, it was just sort of one of those things I just sort of wanted to do, and it's yeah, awesome experience. And I think just getting up and doing Goat Pass and being up in Arthur's Pass and everything, kind of more and more, and yeah, just sort of sparked a passion for the trails and the mountains. And yeah, once I realised there were these things called trail ultra marathons, I was just like, man, what more can you ask for, sort of thing, like I've always enjoyed running, but I've never been a huge fan of running on the road. I just enjoy being in the mountains and being in the bush and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, these events are just kind of tailored to the type of thing that I like doing and how I like spending my time. So
brilliant. So you went to Australia, went to Perth. You're a professional athlete now. How did you sort of did you have a breakthrough win, or how did that sort of come to be?
Yeah, so I think it was kind of, I guess it all just began with doing a few kind of local races in Perth, and yeah, having a few, I guess, good performances. And yeah, it just sort of I guess just a kind of a progression from doing a few races and kind of doing okay and pretending like I knew what I was doing with my training, and just, to be honest, I think initially in Perth it was just kind of navigating the heat and the snakes. It's super hot in Perth, and so summer training is just, it's interesting. It's crazy hot. I remember the first summer we had there, I think we had something like 18 days where it was 38 degrees and above as the average temperature sort of thing. So just crazy heat, and yeah, just sort of went again race to race, and sort of got motivated by the fact that I was kind of getting a few podiums and a couple of wins. And yeah, then it sort of got to I guess around 2013, 2014, and yeah, just sort of chatting with my wife Liz, and we thought, well, who knows what could happen with this whole kind of running thing as a potential career, or whether I could possibly race in Europe or just do one international race, and we'll see what happens. And so yeah, we pretty much just maxed out a bunch of credit cards and booked flights to Hong Kong and back to New Zealand for Tarawera. And then, a few doors started opening with regards to doing some European races based off, performances that I'd had at Hong Kong and at Tarawera. So
brilliant. And like, so where were those performances? How high up the field were you?
So I got 5th at Hong Kong and 5th at Tarawera.
Amazing.
And kind of years where, I mean, every year and every race is kind of different, because you can kind of look at some years and maybe the competition's not quite as strong, or then some years it's just like far out the who's who of, trail running or ultra running. You kind of hear, why did everyone have to pick this bloody weekend to stand on the same start line? But those kind of, couple of additions that I did to Tarawera and Hong Kong to kind of kick off the international kind of races that I was doing were super competitive. There's some international guys, Europeans and Americans, and top kind of Kiwis and Aussies as well thrown into the mix. And so I guess with those couple of performances, the sort of, performing again, I mean, fifth place is still, but it's good, but it's obviously always like to be higher, but it was kind of enough to spark a little bit of interest with regards to a couple of sponsors, and just sort of started opening a couple of doors with regards to some other races.
Yep, amazing. Yeah, cool. So UTMB, there'll be a bunch of people watching this that will know it inside out, but then be a whole bunch of people that UTMB, what does that stand for? Tell us about that race. That was, I guess, one of those races that's sort of a bit of a breakthrough performance, got a bit of mainstream media as well, in terms of how well you actually did there and how the race unfolded for you. So tell us about what it is for a start, and let's sort of talk through how the race kind of went for you as well.
Yeah, so it's UTMB, it's the Ultra Tour de Mont Blanc. It's basically a race that starts in Chamonix in France, 105 miles or 171k, just over 10,000 meters of elevation gain. It's kind of regarded as the Tour de France of trail running, or the unofficial World Cup of trail running. I guess it's the type of race that as an athlete, as a professional athlete, if you're kind of wanting to see where you stack up against some of the best ultra trail runners in the world, UTMB is kind of the start line that you need to be standing on, sort of thing. So for a lot of elite professional athletes, it's definitely the pinnacle of the year. It's kind of like the one race that if you could pick your race of the year to do well at, UTMB is going to be it. It's got the biggest media coverage. It kind of everyone's kind of there in some capacity, and so just a massive race. And it's kind of been the main race on my radar for the last sort of few years, after initially kind of debuting at UTMB in 2014.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. So tell us about that race. It was really interesting doing a bit more sort of research and actually watching some of those videos of you finish and things like that. You were looking pretty sharp at the finish line, running pretty well, which is awesome. But it wasn't all awesome, was it? It was, just about going to pull out at one stage and going backwards. Tell us about how that unfolded and how you actually got through those darker moments in the race.
Yeah, quite a lot of it really sucked, actually, to be honest. It was quite an interesting race in the sense that, I guess looking at it on paper, I got, 3rd place at UTMB, like I sort of said, biggest kind of race in the world, and super stoked with it. And it was kind of interesting kind of post-race with people kind of not knowing the kind of background story, just thinking, Scotty's just had this breakthrough race, best race of his life. He must have had the dream performance, which was far from that. And it's kind of, I guess for me personally, it's kind of interesting and funny in a way, because on one hand, I'm obviously, elated and over the moon to get 30 UTMB. But then on the same hand, I'm actually quite disappointed with the time I ran. I'm definitely a high achiever, and I always want to kind of do the best I can. And I'm always wanting to do the best, for myself, and always kind of strive to be a better version of myself. But it was just sort of one of those events and races that, it was definitely like a lot of ultras, whether it's a 50k or a 100-mile race, there's a lot of ups and downs and stuff that can happen. And so basically, I guess a long story short, because obviously 171k is a long story, but I had a sort of recurring kind of hamstring sciatic nerve issue pop up that had pretty much been non-existent for about 7 or 8 months. And for some reason, at about 16k into UTMB, decided to flare up pretty much from out of nowhere. And sort of ended up going from basically 4th or 5th place in the race at around sort of 16k, kind of in the lead bunch, behind, the guy Power, my mate Pat Capel, who won the race. So there's a few of us behind him. To then, by the time I got to the 50k checkpoint, I dropped down to, I think it was 39th or 40th place.
Wow.
And was basically looking around to find the volunteer who I needed to tell that I was pulling the pin, sort of thing. So sort of was a interesting race in that sense that it sort of it was quite bumpy and early on, and from I guess 16k to 50k, doing the kind of typical give yourself a chance and keep trying, and it could turn around. And just sort of trying everything and anything that I could to try and sort of sort this sort of hammy niggle, sciatic niggle out. And I knew from previous kind of 12 to 18 months where I'd had this kind of niggle that, because it is a nerve type issue, it can just kind of come and go randomly, which is kind of awesome sometimes because it can come on and then bugger off straight away, and then you kind of, you're smooth sailing. But then other times, like at UTMB, it just and other races I've done the previous year, it just gets to a point where I lose almost complete power in my left leg. And anything other than kind of walking or shuffling, kind of just doesn't really happen. So
the race is running away from you. Those guys at the front are still at the front, aren't they? They're disappearing into the distance. And what'd you say? Like that was like 40 odd Ks of shuffling, surviving, just kind of keeping on. It's a long time.
Pretty much, yeah. And it was just I'd been speaking with the mental endurance coach in the build up to UTMB for about 3 months in the build up to that race. I was just kind of wanting to, I guess, tick as many boxes as I could in the preparation for UTMB. I didn't want to kind of, get to the big dance and then find out that I hadn't kind of, crossed some T's or dotted some I's. And I just wanted to basically, give myself every opportunity to perform at UTMB. And I didn't want to have, the legs to be able to do it, but then the nutrition strategy to not be able to do it. Or I didn't want to have good legs, good nutrition, and then my mental, kind of capacity or strategy wasn't where it needed to be for a race like UTMB, because it's, not unfortunately, but it's not just a case now of like, if I just rock up and have a pretty good race, that'll be enough, and I'll perform well. There's a lot of dynamics that are going into these races nowadays, and kind of tactics and, a bit of race strategy with regards to, when to push, when to back off. Am I going to go with, the guy who's taken off like a cat, or am I going to let him go and try and, catch him later, sort of thing. And so, it was just sort of one of those things through speaking with this mental endurance coach, just sort of creating a really positive mindset, and just this basically give yourself the opportunity. And that was what I just kept on telling myself. Like, the longer that I stay in this race, I just keep giving myself a chance to turn things around. And as soon as they put that cross over my race bid, it's game over. You don't bounce back as soon as they take your bib, sort of thing. So I just kept on trying. And then eventually, after 35k of trying, I just sort of came to the sort of like, I was miles behind where I sort of wanted to be, and where I knew I could have been. And I've finished UTMB before. I knew in my head that I didn't need to try and be a hero and, finish at all costs kind of thing. And so, basically just at a point where I was just sort of looking to see, how I could get back to Chamonix and sort of call it a day.
But how, like, your goals change, obviously. Can I just finish this? How do you reframe that? How do you just keep on keeping on? How do you stay in the fight? Like, how do you mentally do that? Like, if you knew that you were going to get third, you turn things inside out, don't you? But if you don't know that, and you're just suffering away, and this is not how it was supposed to be, that's a really tough place to be, isn't it? So are you just saying, I just want to stay, I'll just keep moving and just see what happens, with the view of, hey, this nerve thing kind of sorts itself out?
Yeah, and I think as well, for any athlete, and as professional athletes or, weekend warriors alike, I think you need to go into some of these events with like a strategy of like, what am I going to do when shit hits the fan? Because it's not a matter of, if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And it doesn't matter whether it's the Crater Ultra 53k, or whether it's the UTMB 171k, like, stuff is going to happen during the race. Even whoever wins the Crater, whoever wins UTMB, whoever wins Tarawera or whatever, stuff happens, and you've got to be able to manage that and work yourself through it. And for me, a lot of the time, it's, kind of referring back to previous training sessions that I've done, or, long runs that I've done. And everyone's had those long runs in training where you're like, man, the legs just aren't there today for some reason. And, during training, you don't just sort of wave the flag and give up. You just sort of go, oh, it's just going to be a shitty long run. And then sometimes you do turn it around, like sometimes, whether it's just a shift in focusing on nutrition for a bit, or concentrating on your breathing for a bit, or, concentrating on other things. And I think as well, also for me, it was just sort of thinking during UTMB, just thinking like, I've sacrificed a lot to, kind of be at this event, and I've put a lot of time and effort into this event, and also as a family as well, with my wife and daughter, kind of all being part of the, kind of UTMB build up and race. And so I just thought I've got to keep trying, if not for me, for them, because they've sacrificed so much to, kind of be a part of the event, and for us as a family to, really try for this event.
Yeah, good. So it come down to the family. Is that sort of the one of the key drivers for you to actually, I'm just going to keep doing it because I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for someone else?
Yeah, I think at the end, I think, at a kind of core kind of level, I think you've got to be doing it for yourself, because as much as I was doing it for my family, like, it was my quads and hammies and calves and everything else that was kind of doing the running. So you've got to be willing to kind of take ownership and go, yeah, okay, like, I've got these external, motivating factors and other things that are kind of contributing to what I'm doing. But also at the end of the day, like, I think, every athlete is dedicated time and effort and money and time away from family and so much. And so I think we kind of, as athletes, owe it to ourselves to just kind of explore every avenue before you do wave that white flag. And because, like I sort of said, as soon as you hand that bib in, you're done. You don't get another chance. And also from previous experience, like, you don't want to be, sitting down on the couch, sipping on a beer or a can of Coke or ginger beer or whatever, and going, I wonder if I had given it one more go.
I could have, yeah. And it's about effort at the end of the day. Did I try my best? Whatever it is, at whatever level you are, did I try my best? And that's where you got to be proud of at the end of the day, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm just going to throw a photo up here, and this is a bit of a pretty iconic photo of you across the finish line. For those people listening to this, it's Scotty. You're sort of looking to the heavens. You've got your daughter running along beside you, and actually looking at the video, she actually had a pretty good pace on you. She ran pretty well, didn't she? No tripping at all. She's for a 3-year-old.
She's got a great turn of speed, young Senna. I tell you, she's got a bright future. No, as I was going to sort of, grab her hand and pick her up, I was actually running through my head saying, Scotty, like, slow down. And because the kind of previous 5K building up to that, I was just running like a bloody man possessed, because I wanted to create the buffer, because I knew there was a guy, I thought he was pretty close behind me. In the end, I think it was about 20 minutes behind, but I was just thinking, I don't want to get to that finishing chute and then want to be able to do basically what I did, holding Senna's hand and finishing with her, and kind of looking over my shoulder. And then, I didn't want, sort of any drama to unfold. And so, despite all of that and playing through that in my head as I was kind of approaching Sienna, I just, obviously the, heat of the moment or whatever, and I sort of grabbed her hand. And to be honest, I don't think my pace changed much. And,
she's running sort of 4.5 minutes
to the right, and fortunately her little, 3-year-old legs were just, on auto drive, and she made it to the finish line with me, which was and the photo just just incredible, and just so grateful that obviously that kind of moment was captured, because it's one that I'll obviously cherish for a long time yet.
Yeah, no, it's absolute gold. That's great. Tell us a little bit more about your training. Like, how much? What's like 171 Ks? How long did it take for you to run that?
20. I should know that, shouldn't I? 21:48, I think, or 45.
Okay. So let's say about a day. You're running for about a day, 21 hours. What sort of preparation? What are your long runs? What does your long run look like? When do you do that in a build up? How do you kind of manage that as an ultra running that far? And also, as part of that question, what's your weekly mileage look like? Are you doing sort of 100 miles a week? What are you doing, like a bunch of other sort of elites are doing?
No, definitely not 100 miles a week. It's a terrifying amount. No, I think and it's kind of funny when I do talk to people about my training for UTMB last year, because like last year, in a kind of nutshell, was supposed to be kind of like a rebuild year for me after having a really terrible 2018. I think I DNF'd something like 6 out of 8 races in 2018, and had kind of all the hamstring sciatic issues and a few nutrition issues as well. And so last year I started with a new coach, David Roach, and basically the focus was just simplifying things and kind of getting back to basics a little bit, and just aiming for basically consistency over everything. There wasn't sort of much emphasis placed on, these are some key sessions we need to kind of hit, or here's some, kind of volume that would ideally like to hit. It was just literally like, let's just kind of take each day as it is. David does check in with me kind of daily with regards to the coaching plan, and it was just literally just aimed at building consistency. So my biggest week in training, I think, was about 130K or 140K. But I think I only had maybe 2 weeks that were kind of that bigger volume. And I think it was about the 12 weeks building up to UTMB, I averaged just over 50 miles a week. So it's about 80, 85k a week, kind of average. I guess the kind of caveat to that is that I was able to train for basically 10 weeks up at altitude, living at 2,100 meters, and so that kind of, I guess, element was being able to be added to my training, and also having the ability to get out on the UTMB course and kind of, do long training runs on the course and stuff like that as well. That was just a huge, kind of benefit to, my preparations for UTMB. And so the longest long run that I did would have been on one of the UTMB recce's that I did. And I think we did one day where it was about 52k. Okay. And so, that was the longest. And I had, I think 2 blocks of, 3 days where we basically went, something like 30k, 50k, and then a 20k, and then the rest of that week would have been pretty quiet with a bit of stuff on the bike. And the other block might have been a 50k day, a 40k day, and then relatively quiet in and around those couple of big runs.
Right. So big, but not crazy. Obviously, quality is a big part of that as well.
Yeah, it was quite funny actually, because the Trail Runner magazine did an article after the UTMB, sort of just talking a bit about UTMB and also my training. And I literally had people messaging me after that article had been kind of released in the magazine saying, like, there must have been a typo in that. You can't have averaged 50 miles a week and got 30 UTMB. Like, it just doesn't make sense, or doesn't, it can't work. But we've kind of, like we sort of said, last year was a rebuild year. And one thing that we're sort of realizing now is that, obviously everyone's different. And if I tried to train how Pau Capel trains, I'd probably destroy myself in about 2 weeks, the same as some of the other guys. If some of the other guys try to train how I train, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get 30 UTMB or be at the same level or whatever. It's just kind of finding and working and adapting to what does work for you, and just sort of focusing on that, and also not worrying about what other people are doing. And that was a big part of my kind of, I guess, mental preparation as well for UTMB last year, was just don't worry about what these other dudes are doing. It doesn't matter if they're running 2 or 3 times what you're running per week. And just knowing that what I was doing was right for me and it was enough, and just sort of being, believing in that and trusting the process.
And it also comes back to that the race experience that you've got as well. It's a big part of that too, isn't it? That actually you go back, you can do this, you can run all day because I've done those sorts of races before, and that's a big part of that.
Yeah, totally. I think, and that's the thing with these long ultras, is like, it would be kind of easy in a way if it was just whoever was the fittest, the fastest, and strongest. It'd be like, well, he or she's going to win, and then this person gets second and third, and da. But there's just so many dynamics that go into these long ultras that and I guess that's why I enjoy it so much, is that it's kind of who kind of manages themselves the best, and there's just so many different areas that you need to be strong in for a long period of time, that it's not just a case of whoever is the fastest or the best downhiller or the best climber that wins the race. You kind of got to have a pretty good skill set overall to perform well.
Well, as you mentioned, it's about dealing with the stuff that goes wrong, isn't it? That's a big part of the race as well, and that's how the finish line actually happens at the end of the day. Who gets first, second, and third, based on how you manage that stuff, and mentally and physically. James has just popped back up into the feed here, so maybe a key thing to add, James, is what's your 1 to 2 key tips for others to go out and do what they're capable of on race day?
I need all the help I can get, Scotty. Talk me through it, mate.
Yeah, I think with regards to getting the best out of yourself is like a lot of people put so much like emphasis on race day, and it's just like, and I tell people all the time, it's like, okay, so if you've got like 5 focus races per year, which is a reasonable amount of kind of not necessarily A races, but 5 races that we're kind of focusing on. That's like 5 runs out of, say, if you run 5 days a week, 250 odd runs. It's like 5 out of 250 that are like these races. And it's like, and add to that, it's like, okay, on the 18th of October at 6:30 in the morning, like, you have to be ready to tear shit up and be at your best. It's like, come on, like, it's just so hard to say, like, okay, every little duck needs to be in the row at this time on this day and for roughly this amount of time. Like, it just doesn't. And so I think what I'm sort of getting at with that is, like, go into race day, just like literally just telling yourself, like, I'm going to do the best that I can on this day. And like, and I think going in with that kind of like more relaxed mindset of like not thinking I should be able to do this or I should be able to do that. And it's not a cop out saying like you shouldn't have like, higher kind of, far out sort of goals. And we definitely should. But I think at the core of it, you need to be kind of mindful that pretty much every athlete across the board, if they go out there just telling themselves, I'm going to be the best I can be on this day, and also have as much fun as you possibly can. And it sounds like this cheesy, like, oh, yes, Scotty's just got this cheesy bullshit cop-out stuff, like, oh, go and pick berries and have fun and you'll run the race of your life. But, like, honestly, like, athletes across the board, like, if you're having fun, if you're saying g'day to the volunteers, if you've got a smile on your face and you post race photos, I'd almost guarantee that you're probably going to have had a pretty decent race, you know, like, and I think at the end of the day as well, you know, like a lot of athletes are running because they enjoy running and, you know, doing something that they want to be doing. And so, and it's the same for me, like, I don't want to do a race and kind of perform or achieve like what I want if that race sucked. It's like, I don't know, maybe some sports that's kind of okay, but for me, trail running being maybe a little bit more grassroots and a little bit more, you know, kind of has a bit more meaning and purpose. You know, I'd take a, you know, 50th place at UTMB, but having had an absolutely epic, awesome time over, you know, third and it sucked all day. It's not to say that it's not going to suck at some point, but I think overall you need to be aiming for that, you know, kind of enjoyment and fun, and generally good performances are going to go, you know, hand in hand with those kind of, I guess, you know, motivations and emotions when you're, you know, leading into a race.
Yeah, nice work, Scotty. Hopefully that helps.
So what I'm taking from that is that if I go on with a smile on my face and don't expect too much of myself, things have got a better chance that if I'm going to say, right, I'm going to nail 4.5 minute Ks until I can't run that anymore, and then I'm just going to slowly peter off and I'm going to run 4-hour Ks for the next wee while. But so if I go on with a smile on my face, that's a good start.
Yeah, and I think it's just wanting to, you know, just sort of setting it up so you can just basically just, be the best version of yourself you can be on the day. Like, be prepared to dig deep when you need to dig deep. And again, it's not just a sort of cop out. You've obviously, you know, athletes have to put in the hard work, and there are going to be times of the race where it does suck, but you just, with a good mindset, you're going to be able to apply yourself better and sort of micromanage your own race during the day. And instead of kind of one thing happening, or, you know, one bad mood or one bad patch kind of derailing the whole race, you can kind of isolate that and go, okay, well, that is what it is. And I kind of knew that something was going to hit the fan, but hey, I can deal with that, and then, you know, kind of move on, and it can still be a good race that I'm going to look back on and go, hey, there was a bunch of stuff I dealt with. I worked through a lot of stuff, and I'm here telling the story, eating a pizza and drinking beer, and it was a pretty cool experience.
Nice, and it's all about a good story at the end of the day, isn't it? And some of those mission races that don't go exactly the plan, you just have a good bit of story to tell as a result.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think as well, like, I think it's a case of, like, you know, for a lot of athletes, it's not just like, okay, I'm going to do the Crater Rim Ultra on the 18th of October, and that's going to be the last race I ever do. You know, like, it's kind of going to be like, okay, the Crater Rim's going to be there, and then there's going to be a next, well, hopefully if COVID doesn't screw everything up, but there's going to be other races, and there's going to be same thing with you, even on a scale like UTMB. It's kind of like, if it doesn't go well, like, there's going to be another UTMB one day, or there's going to be another this race one day. And so it's kind of just like, like you sort of said before, Richard, like, you learn the most from the ones where it doesn't go well. So it's kind of like, they do suck, but you learn so much from it. So it's kind of like, if you have an awesome race, fantastic, that's really cool. But then if you don't, you learn so much about yourself as an athlete and as a person that you can then apply to the next race, or apply to the next, you know, part of your life, or different, you know, whatever story's next kind of thing.
Brilliant. Where to next, Scotty? Where are you off to? So you got Crater Rim. What else is happening? What's the plan? Obviously, it's a bit unnknown in terms of the whole COVID situation, but have you got a bit of an idea?
France would be quite nice, actually. But no, honestly, without having a crystal ball, honestly, don't know. Just one of those, obviously, with the way the world's going at the moment. Ideally, we're looking to spend summer in New Zealand. We're in the South Island, which I'm so excited about. It's kind of like, it's a bugger to not be racing, but I'll tell you what, as soon as that snow starts melting up in the Craigieburns and Arthur's Pass, it's going to have my name all over it.
Cool.
And I'll be running the Tarawera 100 in February.
Awesome.
And then you're looking to hopefully head over to Europe, sometime probably in April.
Yeah, fantastic. We've got a few questions just to wrap up, Scotty. A quick five. So tell us, are you going to be training morning or evening? What would you prefer?
I'd love to say morning, but it ain't happening. I'd have to evening.
At least you're honest. Sweet or savoury?
Nice. We'll go savoury.
Savoury.
Nice.
All right.
I've got one. Uphill or downhill?
Oh, can I sit on the fence? No,
No,
I'll go downhill. It's just out of control. So much fun.
Yeah, good.
Cool.
Are
Nice.
you going to have a fancy meal out or eating one of Mum's home cooked meals?
Bonnie cooks something great food, so I have to go, Mum.
Good job.
I hope you're watching, Mum.
Speaking of, what did we today? Wednesday, Friday night, please. Are you training solo or with a mate?
I love training with mates, but to be honest, it doesn't happen as often as I'd like, just because my mates that run, I guess, my speed, there's not many of them kind of with the same kind of schedule. But I prefer to train with mates for sure, 99 times out of 100.
Yeah, brilliant. Good stuff, Scotty.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for your time, your energy, your effort, and your insights. All the best for Crater Rim. We'll definitely be cheering you on, and look forward to following your progress in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. It's really positive stuff. We can feel your positivity. I'm finishing with a smile on my face. I appreciate your help. Thanks, mate.
If it doesn't work, hopefully I've left the country, so you can't come around and ask me questions why it didn't work.
Well, look, I won't be able to catch you, so I don't think you got anything to worry about.
I've got e-bikes these days.
Nice. Jolly good.
Good job. Cheers, Scotty. Nice work. How's that, James?
Richard? Oh, super positive. I sat there listening to some part of those interviews, just smiling, and I particularly like the bits about the family and how important Scotty's family was to him, and that's a big motivating factor, because the family is obviously super affected by all of the stuff that we do. So I really enjoyed that part of it. How good.
Yeah, good. And with Scotty also, his family's traveling with him. They're committed to say, let's go and make this running dream happen. So it's not just Scotty's goal, it's all of them doing it together. So that's pretty cool. And they're also out there on the course with them and seeing how they're getting on as well. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it. Oh, Dave's
there's a question. Could you read this out for us, James? I can't quite see it there.
Yeah, okay. I have a question for James. Hi, Dave. We'll be yes, I will be returning. It is, how will my training for the far longer but much flatter Naseby water race translate into the much shorter but rather hilly Crater Rim course? That's a good question, and I was actually thinking about that from Scotty. Like, of those Ks that he builds up, what is he actually doing? Is he running lots of hills in that 80 Ks? Is he out running some fast flats? Doesn't sound like fast flats are really his run of choice. But look, I'm thinking that the long, slow miles that I was kind of doing for the water race will at least give me some kind of aerobic base. I mean, on the hills, I'll be treating it as an adventure, and I'll be doing all those good things that Scotty was talking about. But I'm hoping that I'll just have a wee bit of an aerobic base, and I'll just have to work my way through the hills and the downhills, and probably take care on the downhills.
There's about 500 meters or so on the flat to the finish line.
Oh, great. Well, I think I'll get through 52.5 Ks, and then I'll really open the taps on the last 500 meters. How's that?
Yeah, I think that's excellent. Hey, I think we'll jump in and have a chat to Jamie. Jamie, race director.
Yeah, hello, Richard.
Crater Rim Ultra. Great to have you on board. How are you getting on, Jamie?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's interesting listening to Scotty and getting his take on where he's been and what he's doing, and then also, of course, with the Crater Rim as his next challenge.
Yeah, how good. And I've heard that you didn't have to do any arm twisting whatsoever. He's just keen to turn up and run a good Canterbury event.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, he's born and bred in Christchurch, so he's totally a one-eyed Cantabrian. So to be able to run in the backyard of our Port Hills and on the Banks Peninsula while he's been in COVID lockdown, it's just another great to put the race together.
Brilliant. So what's, in your opinion, what's the best part of the race, in your opinion?
The best part of the race, and having done it a few times, it probably is training runs, is the section where you're going from behind Mount Herbert and Mount Bradley, which is quite technical, which for me, I don't enjoy the technical, but you come around a bend and then you suddenly have all this zigzag that goes for about nearly 3/4 of a K to a K, and you see in the distance is the Packhorse Hut, and it's just a nice, smooth, tussock, zigzagging track all the way back down there. And to me, that's one of the parts that I enjoy probably the most of the whole course.
Yeah, brilliant. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great section. I know the section you're talking about. It's a ripper. It's a great view out over back over towards the other side of the Port Hills and where you're going in the run, of course, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And you see Mount Ellesmere on your left as you're heading down, which makes for some part of why the Crater Rim's such a great scenic race.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
What are we expecting? What's James expecting in terms of aid stations, and also support out on the course?
Well, one of the things that I think I have to say we do very well at the Port Hills Athletic Club is, with being a good club around for 50 years, we've got a lot of members. And so we've got over nearly 100 marshals out on the course. And of course, it's a race put on by runners for runners. So you can expect that we have 4 aid stations. 3 of those have cut-off times, James, but that won't apply to you, I'm sure. So we won't need to worry about that sort of thing. But of course,
I appreciate your confidence in me.
But it's also a local community running event. So we have the Achilles, which is a group for the blind or partial sighted, and they're actually looking after the Sign of the Kiwi, which is one of the busiest checkpoints, which is about nearly 30 k's, 40 k's into the race for you, James. So, and of course we have Odyssey House, another group, community group helping us, and we also have our local Port Hills group up at the top of Rapaki. And of course, I guess, James, the most important one that people want to see is the first one, and that's at Gebbies Pass Summit Road after 20 k's and 1,000 verts, with the Banks Peninsula slowly fading into the distance as you start on the peninsula or the Christchurch side of the Crater Rim.
Perfect. So is there a good
That's a lovely
spread?
way to finish off the first 1,000 of vert. I'll certainly be looking forward to that. Just a casual K.
What's on the menu for James? Because it's all about food at the end of the day, isn't it?
Well, of course, one of the challenges for this year is we mentioned that word COVID, and I see it as a bit of a double-edged sword from the race hat that I wear. We have to put some protocols and procedures in place for the safety to ensure that our athletes can have the best possible race. So one of the main changes that runners are going to see this year is that when you come up to an aid station, as in previously, there's bowls of jelly beans and oranges and bananas and chips and flat Coke and water, and you usually just throw your hand in to a bowl, grab what you want and take off. But of course, because under COVID conditions, we can't do that. So it's really going to be interesting where we sort of work in a formula where maybe the Crater Rim crew that are marshalling there are going to have to probably pick up and with tongs and drop the orange or the banana or the lollies into your hand to minimize risk. And also then we've got to have our wipe downs in between. But it's everything that we can do to make it as quick. So you're quickly through the aid station. We don't want you lingering there too long, James. You can lose minutes at an aid station. But take on the extra water or the tailwind nutrition that we'll have as our product on the day.
Yeah, nice.
How
technical is the track?
It sounds great.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, some people say they only go for the aid stations.
Well, I was going to say that. I was thinking this sounds like the kind of the trail runner's feast, and all the effort you're going to make it as safe and as kind of as easy for people to do. I think that sounds fantastic. So already I'm looking forward to particularly that first aid station and handing out a few elbow bumps along the way.
And of course, you have your drop bag at the first aid station too, so you can put on a fresh t-shirt and take off.
Fantastic. Fresh pair of socks. Good stuff.
Do you hear, James? Hey, you've got to be looking good, no matter how fast or slow you are, as long as you're looking good doing it. Jamie, in terms of for people that are coming to do the race the first time, maybe coming from out of town, how technical is the track? You think Port Hills, it can't be that bad, but how technical is it up there?
Yeah, with 2,800 vert, and we've put a video together that I happened to go over the course myself when there was actually snow on the ground. And one of the reasons by doing it in wintertime is probably trying to show the people that are coming to do the race, they don't get to train on that terrain. And the Crater Rim, one of the pluses is that there's such a variety of terrain, from the very technical to the forest to the sealed smooth track. So yeah, if we find behind Mount Bradley will be probably the most technical section of the whole course. Yep. But again, as I said, leading out to the pack horse, it's pretty cool. And the other section, which very few runners will ever get to run on unless you're in the Crater Rim Ultra, is private farmland. We have about 8 or 9 farmers who give us permission to use their private farm areas to get through some of the track, and are keeping off the roads, of course, which makes it a pure trail run. And one of the probably just as gnarly as sections is a single trail track at just after the start of the 30k Bellbird Buster, or about 33k, about 26 k's in for the Crater Rim Ultra, where it's a single track called Wable's Farm Track. And while it has some beautiful, stunning scenery, if you're looking up at the scenery in the peninsula of the Littleton Harbour in front of you, you've also got to watch your feet, because there are some drop-offs, not severe drop-offs, but significant to certainly slow your racing. So as Scotty said earlier, make sure you're enjoying the race. And if that means you slow down a little on those technical sections so that you've still got both feet and arms and no blood on them, for the next section, you're going to enjoy the run so much more.
Brilliant.
Nice.
Jamie, what's one key thing or a key element that you wish that every competitor knew coming into the race from your organiser's perspective?
I guess and not just the organisers, but also from the marshals' perspective, because some of those guys are out there for about nearly 10 to 12 hours waiting for that one or two last slower runner to come in. Is if all runners could enter or want to enter, jump online and look at that video that tells you what the terrain is going to be like. So then you can say, hey, I'm a weekend warrior, but I want to run super fast. I'm going to jump in and do the 53. If you've never run a 20k run before, you shouldn't be looking at saying, oh, I'm just going to jump into the 53 with the technical terrain. So check out those videos, and that will give you a great insight. As we're finding out, the 30k is Bellbird Buster is proving very popular for the people that say, well, I've done a 21k race, what's next? Well, rather than jump into a 53 and find out straight away, whoops, 30k in, I think I'm out of my league here, or they do not finish, they can say, right, I've seen what that terrain is, let's do it in good steps, and let's jump to the 30k, and then maybe next year we can look at the 53. So definitely look at those videos.
What I like about it too, lots of options for all sorts of different abilities too. So it's really got something to cater for everybody, doesn't it, Jamie?
Oh, very much so. And as I keep saying, it's put on by runners for runners. So with that in mind, we create the opportunity to get 2,800, yes, James, 2,800 vert into a 53k race. The 30k has 1,000 vert, but then equally for those that are starting out and they take on the challenge, for them, Mount Everest is 10Ks, and good on them for getting off the couch and testing themselves, like going up the farm track and coming down Rapaki.
Yeah, beautiful. Love it.
Jamie, we've got 2 minutes to go. Men's and women's elite field. Who are we watching out for? What's the strength of the field looking like at this stage in the last 2 minutes?
With COVID being so closing our borders, what it's also done is kept our top New Zealand runners at home. Okay. And so this year we have last year's winner, Varjan Armstrong, who won by 30 seconds from Daniele. Daniele is also back to contest. So Daniele's first ultra race last year, leading by 7 minutes at the top of a pack end to lose by 30 seconds at the bottom. Like Scotty said earlier, Daniele's learned a heck of a lot from last year's race. Yeah. And then, of course, we've got the 2018 winner, Andrew Thompson from Wellington, coming back. We have Western Hill, who won the race in 2017. Yep. So those three, apparently this guy, Scotty Hawker, is going to probably give them a run for their money as well. And we've got some of the dark horses, Will Bell, who's had a 10th and a 5th the last 2 years. Aaron Sasky, a local runner, the word is, and a guy, Nick Cox, I believe. He's going to do well. We've also got Kristen L, podium winner in 2017. So in the men's race, I'm sort of super excited, I guess, from the two hats as a race director and also the dad hat to see who's going to be coming down the finishing chute, wanting that New Zealand title that they'll have for life. And then, of course, in the women's section, Mel Aikens, well known in running circles, she's back for another shot to defend her title. And as well, I've just got a couple of names here that I've been reading through my list. We have a Katie Smith, a Sue Metzger, and a Hayley Clayton, who have all putting down some pretty good times. And as we know in all ultra races, some local dark horse will just put everything together and pop up, which is what Daniele did last year. First time running an ultra, and he only just loses to Varjan by 30 seconds after 53k and 2,800 vert. So it's pretty exciting. Crater Rim come the 18th of October.
Good stuff. And hey, there could be a dark horse sitting on a couch with a moustache that is smiling a little bit right now.
I didn't want to say it, but I was sitting here thinking, maybe I'll just put an absolute pearling performance together on the day, and I just end up flying around. On that note, you want to put a mark in the sand and give us an estimate of the finishing time?
For the winners, based on last year around the 5 hours, Varjan won it in 5:01 last year, and 5:01:30 was Daniele. And the women's Mel finished in just under 6 hours. So
Okay.
that should be. Well, I should say too, James. We have an over 50 section, so maybe there's something for you to build up to with climb up your sleeve.
Make sure that I'm sort of in that mix. Is that what I'm aiming for?
Yeah, it's all about. As I say to Scotty now, it's all about the age groups.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
never
give
give up.
I think that also tells me that there's longevity there too. So I've got a wee way to go, and I've got things to aspire to. So I'm loving it.
Oh, very much. I mean, our running club has runners that are 80 years of age and still running. You know,
Perfect.
some of them
I'm going to play the long game.
Brilliant.
Yeah, some of them national level. So that's what running does. As you say, if you're running with your mates, you got a smile on your face, whether it's a UTMB or whether it's a Crater Rim or it's just a run around the Rapaki track on the Summit Road, Crater Rim Hills. That's what running is.
Yeah, good
Perfect.
stuff. Well done, Jamie. Thanks for the insights. Thanks for sharing, and looking forward to the Crater Rim event coming up very soon in a few weeks' time. For how many sleeps is that, James?
That's
Probably what?
26.
26? Yeah, that's right. I'll be ready to shake your hand. It'll be a well sanitized hand.
And we're staying in COVID one, so the whole country is going to have a great race.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it, Jamie. I'll see you at the finish line, mate. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Jamie.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thanks,
Mate. See ya.
Nice work. Just like that, Jamie. James, happy?
Close enough. Yeah. Goodness me. I tell you what, I've got a lot to look forward to. I think, don't we? Especially those aid stations. And there's good food there.
Are we getting more relaxed or a bit more nervous? Where are we at?
Well, look, I think, to be honest, the lads have made me feel a bit more relaxed. I do feel more relaxed. Yeah, I like the idea that I've just got to go and treat it as an adventure, that it's a race put on by runners for runners. And I'm looking forward to those aid stations, particularly getting to that first one after I've ticked off my first casual K of elevation. I've only got, after that? It was 1,900 metres of vert to go after that. So, mate, walk in the park. I've certainly broken the back of it. That's for real.
That's right. And just think about that last 500 metres of flat. It's all yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the nutrition's key, which is probably a nice segue into our next piece. Don't you think?
Yeah, shall we do that? Cushla, come in, Cushla. Are you there?
Hey guys, how are you?
Yeah, really good thing. You might have heard that James has got an ultra to run in 4 weeks. So as part of the picture, like Scotty's talked a lot about sort of mental toughness and hanging in the fight. Jamie's given us a bit more of an idea about what the course is about and what to look forward to. But that whole, hey, this is actually an eat-a-thon, it's a nutrition race is super important at the end of the day as well. So what are 2 or 3 things that maybe you should get, or I guess share with James to make sure that he can have the best day that he possibly can?
Yeah, I'll keep tonight brief, and I had 3 top tips I was going to talk about tonight. So James, I hope you're listening.
I'm reading.
Tip number 1 is something that hopefully anyone who's doing the Crater Rim has already been doing a little bit in their training, because with only a few weeks to go, you probably haven't got that many long runs left. And that is practice. So I can't emphasize that enough when it comes to endurance training. It's practice, practice, practice. You need to go out in your long training runs and try and mimic what you plan on doing in terms of specific hydration and, specific foods that you're going to consume. And you have to work out what works for you as an individual, not what your friend's doing or anyone else, just what works for you. And you need to make sure that when you're on the start line on race day, you're confident in what you're going to do and that it works for you. Tip number 2 is variety is the spice of life. So ensuring that when you are on the start line, you have a variety of foods and fluids and flavors and textures as well. So by that, I mean, like, say you're relying on an electrolyte, that you have it in a couple of different flavors as well, plus maybe some plain water. Maybe you have some sweet foods like some jelly beans. It sounds like they're at the aid stations. Or you take your own, and maybe some oat-based muesli bars. And then for savoury options as well, you want, maybe some pretzels in there, or maybe some white bread with peanut butter, something like that, just to break up all the sweet that seems to be going in endurance races. And also with the savoury foods like pretzels, because they're often really salty, it encourages you to drink a bit more, which can be really, really helpful as well.
Nice. So that's a good way to sort of use the aid stations, isn't it, James? So you've got your food, but then also use those aid stations for a bit of variety and something to look forward to as you're running.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. I think the variety thing's really important because it is such a long event. I guess it ties into what maybe Scotty was talking about before, that it's a long time and there's a long time to sort of keep yourself fueled and going. So the variety thing's key. What about, I've got this thing in my head at the moment, some fried and boiled salted potatoes. How about those?
Oh, yes. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know about
Is it gonna work?
fried. But something I do talk about with clients is a different thing they can do is you can actually like boil, say, your cream roll potato and then you mash it. So it's sort of like a puree, but then you add lots of salt and seasoning to it, obviously to get more sodium in as well. And then you put it in a Ziploc bag, and when you go to have it, just like trim or rip off the corner of the bag, and you just eat it from there.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm onto a winner there. That sounds good. Bit of savoury in there. I guess what the fans really want to know, particularly Richard, is where does the custard square fit into this ultra puzzle?
Probably at the finish line.
I was hoping you were going to say at the top of Gibby's Pass, but I'll go with it.
As long as it's at least one.
Unless someone's standing there with it for you, it could be quite a messy food item to try and squash into your race pack.
And that's part of the fun of it. Can you actually carry
mess up the branded merchandise that I saw Jamie wearing in his hat? I wouldn't want to mess up that with custard all over the front of my face. I'd rather eat it than wear it, and because maybe I will save that till the finish, especially not till the downhill at Rapaki, because I'll end up wearing it all over myself.
Nice. So Cushla, you've got practice. You've got variety. What's your third tip?
Third tip is to keep on top of your hydration from the point you start the race. So from those first few steps, you need to be keeping on top of your hydration. For a long race, if you get into a couple of hours and you're already way behind in your hydration, it's going to be very, very hard to catch up to where you need to be and then stay well hydrated from there on. So it's so important that from the first 15, 30 minutes, you're already sipping away at some hydration and keeping on top of it and keeping regular with that through the whole race. Do not ignore it.
So
okay.
Weather is a key part of that as well. If it's hotter, it becomes even more important. If it's not so hot, it's still important, isn't it? You sweat more than you realise.
Absolutely. It's so interesting. I do a lot of sweat rate testing with the people I work with, and they're always surprised by how much they sweat. Like it's always probably double what they thought. And it's, if they went into a race thinking what they needed was right, they'd be like 50% behind or more. So really, really important to focus on your hydration. And saying that, before the race, you don't want to just, try and down heaps and heaps of water or fluid, because you can't store it either. So it's more just trying to keep that balance right and going in a pretty well hydrated state so that you're, at a good condition, ready to start the race, and then keep on top of that and keep within that couple percentage of that fluid balance, because you don't want to lose too much water, body water, which obviously is your body weight going down in the race. And you want to stay within that percentage difference, which is key for your performance.
Okay. This is a big question, and I know we don't have long left, but where does caffeine fit into this? Can I put like a little shot of like an espresso or something in there, or is that a good thing or a bad thing? What happens with caffeine in an event like this?
So firstly, if you've practiced it and you usually would use caffeine, then absolutely, it's a fantastic aid to enhance your performance. I think caffeine's awesome. So I'd probably recommend having it before the race, like with your breakfast and a coffee or something like that. And then try and hold off having too much more until about halfway through or beyond, just as that sort of pick me up towards the end. You don't want to start hitting caffeine all throughout the race from the start, besides from when you hit it before the race. Yeah.
Nice. I like the pick me up, but I'm probably going to need that physically and also nutritionally as well. So I'll be taking everything. Nice one. Thank you.
That's and good. Something you really like is a bit of a morale boost for halfway is probably not a bad idea either. Custard square.
Nice. Yes. No. There we go.
Good. So, hey, look after that hydration, but we don't necessarily want to see you in the Portaloo while the gun goes, James. So manage that. Don't overdo it. Make sure you practice that start line, and plenty of variety. So looking forward to seeing what you come up with.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I appreciate your tips. I'm sure everybody else as well. So will as well. So thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, Dad. I'm looking forward to hearing how you go.
Good job. Well done, Cushla. Thanks for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. See you guys.
Thanks, Chris. See ya.
Just like that, James. Hey, so Crater Rim, do you need to do any training now? Or where you're at? Where's the head at? Or are you just going to turn up because you're like pretty much
I've had a couple of days off from work, and I started doing some binge training today, which when I got to the third session of the day, I realized it was not a good thing to do. So it's definitely a case of do as I say, but not as I do here. Look, I feel better after talking to the guys there. Cushla's given me some good things to think about. Jamie's just sold the pants off the event, hasn't he? And Scotty's just a genuine top man, and he just made me feel really good about the whole thing. So I think I've come out in the net positive there for sure. Don't you reckon?
Yeah, no, 100%. No, it's going to be an awesome day out, and I'm sure Jamie's got the weather nailed as well. We didn't get to ask him that, but whatever it is, it'll be an adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I think the other thing too is, are you going to be there in a certain capacity, either to hold the golden microphone, or are you signing up for an event? I just thought I'd put that out there.
That's a very good question. I'm not sure we've got time for that. I think the time's sort of running out there, James. But an excellent question. No, that's awesome.
Next week. But no, great show. I've really enjoyed it, and thanks for having me on.
No trouble at all. So get out there into the Crater Rim. There's still some entry spots available. Look after your training. Get yourself organised. Make sure you prepare well so you can go and have an awesome day out. And as Jamie's talked about, the race is a really great, well-run event. Lots of encouragement, lots of enthusiasm. So go and challenge yourself and explore everything that is the Port Hills around the Crater Rim Ultra.
Yeah, absolutely. And just come along and have a run. There's going to be people from all levels, as Jamie said, right the way through to, the people right at the top of the field like Scotty, both of which we've had on tonight. So, just come along and enjoy yourself. That's what I'll be doing, is treating it as a big adventure. And I think everybody should take that mindset into it, I think. Good
job. Well done, James. Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for your energy. Thanks to Jamie, Scotty and Cushla. And have a fantastic event. And over and out from the Team CP media crew.
Nice, everyone. Good night. Thanks for having me. See you soon.
Thanks heaps.